So thank you for joining me for this today. Let me explain what we're doing today. I've since quarantine started, every week I've been doing reviews or summations of books that help consciousness in the realm of mind, body, spirit, whatever it is. I was preparing to do the last one last Saturday. And this is of course in the wake of the murder of George Floyd and the huge lightning bolt of wake-up call to the greater consciousness that it's got to change. And I was preparing to do this, the last one, and I realized I should have taken that opportunity to review one of the books that's being recommended to the white community, to white people. This book being one of them, which is The New Jim Crow, which is by Michelle Alexander. I am immensely, that's not even half of what I am massively grateful that Nicole is willing to join me for this. Let me explain. Nicole, simultaneously, since quarantine started, has been doing her own video logs and just sharing of her own experience, her perspectives, since late March.
Uh-huh.
Now, since the news came up about the murder of Ahmaud gosh, it was in April, even though it happened in February, she's spoken out to that of her own experiences in African American, which has, and I adore you till the cows come home, Nicole, but it's really been, it's been necessarily challenging to listen to that, necessarily. And of course, in the last week, you've spoken out more. You speak so beautifully, clearly, lovingly, kindly, and directly. And I even got some guidance about a week ago to ask you actually to do this, and I sat on it. I sat on it for days because I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed to ask. I could hear you in my head saying, "I love you, but you need to figure this out yourself." And now let me introduce you, because there's few people I admire as much as I admire you.
Oh, thank you. Oh my
So,
God.
to anyone to meet Nicole for the first time, consider Nicole a leader in the local business community here. You gather women together as well in a leadership capacity. I still haven't let go of this, but Nicole got to see Prince play when Prince was in his teens in Minneapolis, and I still haven't let go of that. Nicole is someone I am happy, I am on a soul level happy to see every time I see it. I haven't gotten to see you for a while, since last year, and I'm sad, happy for the reason to do this now. bittersweet happy. But again, thank you so much. This book, the New Jim Crow, if I can just give the whole title, it's a long title. The New Jim Crow, mass incarceration in the era of colorblindness is the full name. It was actually my second choice of a book to cover. The first one I went to it's called The Invention of the White Race. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I've never heard of that.
But I actually wanted to cover a book that was a bit more contemporary, and addressing our current times rather than a. While I do need a history lesson as someone that's not from this country, I needed a perspective on more current times. I'm gonna get out the gate with a quote from Frederick Douglass, which is in like the 4th chapter here, and it jumped out at me because it's very profound. But also, I think we'd been on a shared message thread when we were talking about Frederick Douglass some time ago. But I'm just going to read this out. A cruel and heavy hand has been placed upon us. As a people, we feel ourselves to be not only deeply injured, but grossly misunderstood. Our white countrymen do not know us. They are strangers to our character, ignorant of our capacity, oblivious to our history and progress, and are misinformed as to the principles and ideas that control and guide us as a people. The great mass of American citizens estimates us as being a characterless and purposeless people, and hence we hold up our heads, if at all, against the withering influence of a nation's scorn and contempt. That's tough words to read. And he wrote that in 1853. Yeah, 1853. I don't even know that I considered myself a white person up until about a week or two ago. But I do now. And I'm going to say this. I want to say this, and Nicole, I'm actually saying this to white people that are going to watch this, all right? We have to speak up. Silence silence is unacceptable now. We're going to be criticized for it. We're going to be criticized. We're going to be called fake allies. We're going to say, people can say we're full of shit. Pandering, following trend, bandwagon jumping, all of it. And you know what? We're just going to have to deal with it. We're just going to have to deal with it. I want to speak to privilege, because it's something I don't know why, but I've been thinking about for years. And I want to just give different contexts for this. So when I was young, growing up in London, maybe 17, 18, a female friend of mine, who you remind me so much of, by the way.
You've mentioned her before.
Yeah. She said, look, when you're walking by yourself late at night and you see a woman coming towards you on the same side of the street, cross over, because then she won't feel intimidated or even the possibility of concern that there's a strange man walking towards her. And so I've done that ever since. And that really was my introduction to male privilege. That wow. and the idea that I had an experience, or someone had an experience that I had no idea of, and I could do something with knowledge and awareness of it that would make their experience better. So if we fast forward a lot of years to a couple of years ago when the Me Too thing broke, and thank God, and I'm not saying males haven't been through their own stuff with females, but that was a time for males to shut up and listen, and that's all. And that's all. Now is the time for white people to listen. There will be other conversations in the future. And as you know, Nicole, as you put, you need to elevate your awareness of other communities too. You're not pretending it. So this isn't the only conversation, but we need this conversation, not today, but this greater conversation needs to come into the light in the support of the other disenfranchised groups in society in the world that need equality isn't the word. I think equity is more the word. Random other example. I was in the ER, got taken to the ER a couple of years ago. The nurse comes to me and says, "Are you on medication and do you have any allergies?" And I said, "No, and no." She goes, "Wow." And I'm like, I'm really sad that that's a cause for amazement. But the guy in the bed next to me, he's like, "Here's my list." But again, it's a privilege to have. It's a privilege to have a healthy body, and that was my wake-up call to, well, there's a whole set of people that don't have the experience that I have. I have experience that people don't have, and so with the Black Lives Matter and the hashtag, because it took me a while to understand why the hashtag. I'm Generation X. I'm just kind of catching up here.
Me too.
It is a great insult. No, let me start again. Yes, of course, all lives matter. That's not the point. the point that when someone gives you the gift of sharing a trauma, sharing a vulnerability, sharing a hurt, and you slam back with, yeah, I got the same thing, or mine's worse. You have, I mean, it's almost abusive to do that to someone. And I kind of grew up with that in my family too. But that's what slamming back with All Lives Matter does. And in my observation, and it's been said enough times, no one that's ever said the word Black Lives Matter has intended only Black Lives Matter. That's never been intonated or intended.
It's Black Lives Matter, comma, too, is what it really is.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Black Lives Matter too. All lives matter. They should, but it's, you know, from when I first heard it, that's what I thought. I was actually angry because I was like, God, they left off a word so people would get it. Black Lives Matter too.
Yeah.
Like, we matter too. Like, everyone else has a right to live. We should get to as well. So
I hear in those words, I hear this needs to be heard now. And I'm actually going to share this later on today. I came across a post that a friend of mine had written 4 years ago after Michael Brown. And she'd been sitting next to someone on the plane who had a cup, like that, with All Lives Matter on it. And my friend had written just like the most eloquent and necessarily scathingly a post about it and explaining it. But what really other than it being a great piece of writing, what really touched me, that's not the right word, 4 years ago. It's 4 years ago. And reading this book and awareness of that 4 years ago, it's making me realize, it's making me realize how these things stay as infections in the consciousness. And it's like I have to create a habit. I feel like I'm about to run a marathon and I've just realized I'm tremendously unfit. And so, what I was saying earlier on about being white, and speaking up, it's going to come across clumsy and clunky, just like I am now. But something's better than nothing. Something is better than nothing. So if you're watching this as a white person and you're watching me fumble for words, please fumble for your own words. It's better than nothing. Okay. Do you want to say anything to that?
You're doing great.
Okay.
You're doing fabulously. I like the examples you're giving. I saw a meme about the Black Lives Matter thing, and it was a meme that said, when you see save the whales, it doesn't mean F all the other fish, or you don't care about the other fish, you only care about the whales. No, right now we're focusing on the whales. Or like I saw another one where if you go to a breast cancer rally, you don't stand up and go, I don't know, lung cancer matter, like whatever. It's like, yes, no, we know that they're all bad. Cancer's bad. All of it's bad. It's like, yeah, no, we need to address all of it. But right now we're going to triage and work on breast cancer. We're going to help the whales. We know that all of it matters, but we got to and usually I think the Black Lives Matter surfaces when there's something going on. And what I have to say to you about being Generation X with Black Lives Matter, I looked at it like, oh, that's the young kids. Oh, look, oh, that's sweet. They're doing their thing like Martin Luther King did back in the day. Let me get on with my life. Truly, like, I was like, that's nice. They're going to do that. They're going to take that on. Ooh, I wouldn't use that hashtag. I wouldn't say those words because I don't want to deal with the backlash like you're talking about white people that are going to have when they speak up. And so it's only been in this last week. I still haven't used the hashtag, but I've come to understand it with the blackout. What was it called? Blackout Tuesday or whatever it was called. And this is white clients teaching me because I don't know the young people. generate millennials teaching me that they were not supposed to use Black Lives Matter for the blackout, because the Black Lives Matter hashtag is what people use for information, like to stay connected to what's going on. It's for a whole other purpose of using that hashtag. I didn't know. I mean, when you talk about in the dark till 2 days ago, I didn't know any of this stuff. I'm constantly learning too. So we're all learning together about a lot of this different stuff. And it's okay. It really is.
I realized I had to, rightly or wrongly, probably wrongly, I realized I had to use the Black Lives Matter hashtag because I had to be seen using it.
Ah, yeah.
I've been saying it. I've been happy to say it, but I was no, I've got to be seen using it, because then it will make it okay for someone else, and that will make it okay for someone else. And it's, you said the other day, people are going to look at this time and they're going to study what we did. And I feel something else in addition. I feel like when I finally leave the planet, cross the veil and so on, I'll be shown what I did and didn't do.
Yeah.
What I said and I didn't say at this time. And yeah.
Not to get off topic, but with that, the reason why I bring that up a lot is because when we were in school in history, when we would read about atrocities and things that were going on, Germany, Nazi, Hitler, like all of that. And I remember always thinking, how did it get so far? What was everybody doing? Why wasn't anyone doing anything? I don't understand. And I still really don't, but we're living in a time like that, yes, where the future is going to look back on this time like, what were they doing? They weren't doing anything. Or they may say we were. It's not, history's not written yet. But it's like, what in the heck was going on?
I absolutely. And I really not delighted to say this out loud, but I really feel like I don't know where life society is going. And I do feel like everyone's going to need someone to speak up for them at some point.
Yeah.
We've got there's very possibly the subject of vaccinations coming up and things like that. And Canada can't take on that many people from this country. There's a poor joke there.
Yeah, no, but it's true.
The greater value of having your time today, and I really, really mean that, I'm grateful for your time, is your own perspectives and experiences. And I do want to talk about this book, but I need to give voice to us. We have a mutual friend, Peggy Casper. We love you equally.
That's my girl.
And we're both listening, following what you're saying. And when you said, this is shortly after I'm moored, when you said, every time your husband Raj goes out on his bicycle and you cringe, it's just that, like, part of me died, and I'm sure a Black person listening to this conversation right now will be like, yeah, like, you didn't even know that, and didn't know that. A part of me died when you were talking about going for a walk in Overland Park and how you just right here and just felt like, I don't know if I want to do it today. And
yeah, or actually it was walking with my white girlfriend, and we came to, first of all, when she came, she made a joke, and it really was a joke, but it wasn't funny because it was so real that, you know what I mean? It's like, it's a joke, but it's like, girl, you have no idea. Where she was like, my neighbors were out and they were getting ready to watch, it was like an airman show or something. So they were starting to come out.
Yeah.
She made a joke about, yeah, I'm coming over here to get you. And she was like, they're coming outside. And I'm thinking, she made a joke, something about, oh, what are they thinking? Nikki has white friends or something like that. And I was like, girl, it's a joke, but they probably really are. Like, you have no idea. And then when we walked down the path, we had a choice to go left or right, and she didn't care which way to go. And I didn't want to say out loud to her why we were choosing the way that we were going to go versus the other way, just because of the vibe and the way it feels to go one way on the path versus the other. I just don't like, I just don't like the way it feels on that side, where it feels like, what are you doing here? It's older white people walking their dogs and what have you. And they do, it's a vibe, and they don't necessarily yield over if I'm riding my bike. It's kind of like you get all, they know, they see you, even if they're coming. It's just it's that microaggression stuff.
Yes.
Like, I'm going to show you.
Surface, unspoken.
Yeah.
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 I don't like getting pulled over at 2 a.m. in the middle of Oklahoma. But when it happens, well, it's already happened once. When it happened, it's because I was driving too fast, and I didn't have any concern beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not knowing that there are millions and millions and millions of people out there that are afraid of a police car coming near them.
Oh my goodness.
Understanding also from reading this book, understanding it's just like
I'll tell you about Roger and I have an experience. My niece is 19, so it was 19 years ago. She was 4 months old. And Roger and I drove to Atlanta to get my sister and bring her from Atlanta to Kansas City, and bring her baby back here. And her husband was still in Atlanta, so we were helping to get her up here. So we were in 2 cars, and my husband was in a car, and then my sister, myself, and the baby were in the other car. And Roger was speeding, and I want to say like he called on his cell phone or something. Like somehow I can't remember exactly how, but he got the message to me: keep going, don't stop, because that could cause a situation where the cop thinks that he's in danger because it's 2 cars. He's pulling one over and then another car pulls over. So he had told me to keep going. So it must have been with this like a flip phone or something. I don't know. It's almost 20 years ago. And I didn't, because I feared so much, because he has a different awareness, a different understanding of these things. He probably really was telling me the right thing to do. We might not be here if it had been a different cop, by me not listening to my husband. So when he pulled over and the cop pulled over with him, I pulled over anyway. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of like, the cops got 2 cars. And I think before I even went to Roger's car, it was a long time ago. My sister was with me. I remember the cop coming in, talking to us, and then I think he realized, oh, okay, because there's a baby in here and it's these 2 women. And we explained what was going on, and then I'm sure he went ahead and gave Roger a ticket. I don't remember that part, but every once in a while we talk about that. And then this last week we've talked about that, and how we're lucky in some cases to even be alive now, because the situation could have gone totally wrong because I did not listen to him and keep driving. And he was really mad at me because he had told me, just drive on by, go on up, and let me handle this cop. Don't stop. But I was on the other side, fearing for him, going, no, I want to be here in case something happens. But my choice could have made things much, much worse. But, I think about situations like that for white people. A white guy wouldn't say that to his wife. He's getting pulled over, both cars, you got a caravan going. You're both just going to pull over. It's going to be a whatever, and you're just going to go. There's not all this strategic stuff about survival and what is the right choice to make to possibly stay alive in that situation. It's crazy, but that's what we do. It was a long time ago, but we still talk about it like, man, it could have gone so differently. And, we do things, and then we do things like when my daughter went to school in Memphis, and we would go the back way. We didn't take 70 or whatever the main highways were. We would take the back ones, like the 2-lane highways and stuff. And, we'd get there in 8 hours. There were certain parts that we would make sure we were gassed up. I don't want to say what states, but my husband would make sure we had enough gas to just get through the state. Like, you're not going to go to the bathroom. You're not going to need a snack. We're not going to need gas. We just need to get through the state at the speed limit and get to the other side. That's how we exist in this world all the time, in survival mode. I've been explaining it that way to a lot of people, like especially my yogis, since I'm a certified yoga teacher, and I'm in that world. We live in Black people, or probably people of color, but I can only speak to the Black experience. I try to do this all lives matter and be inclusive of everyone sometimes in my experiences, but I really can't. I don't know what it's like to be Asian and Japanese and Mexican and all that. I don't know, but I know I can speak for myself, and I can speak for probably 99.9% of us. we live in fight or flight all the time. It dawned on me this week. That's why so many of us have high blood pressure. It's in our, it's in our DNA now. It's in our cells. When you look, when they give stats like that about African Americans and hypertension and what have you, and I go, God, what is it? Why is it? What's going on? And it dawned on me this past week. It's because I'm cringing all the time. If I'm living in cringe all the time, worried about my family, then of course my blood pressure, it's subconscious. It's in here, and it's in the cells of my body. It's in my heart to constantly be like, on edge. It's the place that I live in.
The book that I was going to look at today deals with and this is relevant. I haven't just completely changed the subject. It's looking at the particular form of subjugation that African Americans are experiencing in this country now. It's an evolution of an evolution.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm saying this because what you're sorry, let me just summarize it. Let me just summarize the experience that it's almost like African Americans are and sorry, this is she focuses more on males here, young males, almost pushed into situations where they get incarcerated, and then there's for the rest of their lives, there's this marginalization experience, and we're talking millions and millions of people. I really need your experience as well, because it's parallel to that. And as I'm looking ahead, and I'm talking to my daughter Sophia, who's 9.5 now, already talking to her about this, and thinking with the future. It's like, okay, well, I can't change the past, but I've got 3 kids. 3 kids, and I'm just waiting for the dad. What the fuck? When did you stop trying to fuck the world up?
And I think I've told you, this is why my 22-year-old doesn't want to have babies. She doesn't want children.
What the?
She's willing to be a mother and just take one that's already here, that to adopt because they're here, but she's not willing to, in her mind, contribute to the problem by giving birth and bringing more children into the world. And that's really sad.
Well, it took me until I was 32 to have children, so maybe she'll change her mind.
Right, she's young. She might.
It's very sad. Yes, I remember you writing that. All right. So, I wasn't familiar with. It had come up. I remember it slightly from when I was at school and studying that era at school. Obviously in Britain, I had heard of Jim Crow. And just in case anyone's watching that not familiar with that, that's the name given to the segregationist policies. I think it's Reconstruction era, particularly in the South. Reading this book, and Michelle Alexander, she wrote this book or published it in 2010, and so that was following Obama coming into being a president. And there's a preface to this book, because the version I read was the 10th anniversary, and it was very profound reading that, because she's talking about the current president. I don't want to invoke his name. She's talking about the current president, and just watching how he's a catalyst for bringing all this stuff to the surface. She's talking about. She says she deeply respects Obama, but wasn't delighted when he came in. And I remember myself in England, 2008, like, wow, this is the best thing ever, like, finally. Because in England, forgive me if this insults anyone, we watched George Bush Jr. get voted in the second time, and we just we just couldn't understand it. So when Obama came in, it was just amazing. Is how it looked from the other side of the ocean. And so she's calling out colorblindness right in the get-go. And, you know, because you hear people say, I don't see race, I don't see color. It's like, I have, I'm not even gonna, I'm not gonna cheapen this with my own examples because they just don't, it doesn't compare. But it almost seemed to exacerbate the problem because the problem didn't have words. It wasn't definable.
Right.
It wasn't definable because, and this is important to know, it's important to, sorry, not to you, Nicole, but it's important to know that that the whole rhetoric of racism and prejudice changed. And so, you know, after the civil rights movement, it wasn't okay to use certain terms as expressions in public anyway. And so the rhetoric changed, and it changed to the word felon and to the word criminal.
And thug.
Thug, right? And I didn't know that until a couple of days ago.
We know what that means.
And I didn't. So let me. Yes. And she calls out indifference, and that's the, you know, if I'm speaking directly to white people here, like that's the cancer. You know, you said the other day, you know, the monster, and I agree with you, by the way, the monster is the white male.
Yeah.
The problem looks like this. I'm not an aggressive person, not a violent person. But the problem is the person that's saying nothing. That's like, it's not happening to me. It's like,
well, can I speak on that too? Like, while you're on that, and it goes back Jim Crow, and it goes all the way back to slavery, and, you know, and it being ingrained in us in this society to fear the black man. The black man is the monster. When you see him coming towards you down the street, to fear him. So, but while we're looking this way, going, ha, with the black man, the thing that's never really talked about, no one really wants to talk about it, is, but who's killing the people? It's that particular white man, you know, whether it's the cop, or in the case of Ahmaud, private citizens who decide that you should not be jogging in this neighborhood. Who is the monster? You know, I'm sure somewhere in some corners or somehow or somewhere, someone does the whataboutisms with that. But what about the black guy that killed so-and-so or what have you? I don't even know, but I can just imagine how the whataboutisms get flipped around with what I'm saying. But we need to really talk about this. And no, it's not every white man. And for the most part, I don't believe that it's the majority, but it's like for the ones, for like the cancer, you know, you gotta treat it. And by people speaking up more on these things and not just going, what I've been telling my friends is, don't just do that's just Tom, that's just the way he is, we know how he is, that's just I've been hearing a lot this week about, especially my young clients' friends' fathers,
right,
on Facebook and expressing themselves, and they're just like, there's no point in trying to talk to him about anything or explain anything to him. And it's like, no, I have a young client whose father, she and him were having, she posted something about systemic racism 2 days ago. And they were going back and forth, and they're Jewish. So he did the what about, you're Jewish, and you know, was trying to make it like Jewish people have suffered more. And it's like, we're not trying to say that they haven't suffered. No, right now in this moment, it's about this though, Dad. And she was really trying.
Yeah.
And I messaged her, and she was so embarrassed, because I said, was that your dad? Because she's kind of filled me in on him a little bit. And the last names were the same on Facebook. And she was like, we were texting, but she was just like, yes, I'm so embarrassed. And I was like, no. And of course I wrote her a book, you know, in text back about chin up, and you keep doing the work, and let's get through this. And you keep coming to me like her adopted mother. And I'm going to keep on, she's like 22, 23 years old. I'm going to keep on helping you with this, because I totally see what you're up against. And he spouted off every stereotype about Black people that you could, I told her, I said, I can tell he doesn't know a single Black person. Yeah. not one. I said he's probably never talked to one, just based upon what he was enumerating as his arguments for things, and how they need to take care, they need to fix it. And it's like, he doesn't want to accept the fact that white men have all the power. You know, he didn't even want to take ownership of that, yo, there's a whole lot we cannot do. When the suburbs, you know, I'm pointing as if it's around here. I don't know what the allocation of money is. And, you know, around here is kind of different because we've got the Kansas suburbs, but then the Missouri, you know, side, and then you've got KCK. I don't know how, I just know from statistics, when you look at things in different cities, when, you know, the inner city where, with that redlining, where the Black kids are, and the budget is $13,000 per child. But in the suburbs where all the white kids are, it's $35,000 per child. 13,000, 35,000. And then I'm looking at this man who doesn't want to see that or accept that. Even with her giving information like that, he called it a point of view. That's just one point of view. Sir, those are facts. That's the facts of what Black people are up against. And he's not open to it. He just doesn't want to hear it. And I don't, and so for those, I don't know how much we can really, you know, get to ever hear us. But and again, in his favor, in defense, and then Joshua, I'm going to be quiet.
No.
When we're talking about centuries of this, right? Centuries. The same way in my DNA is fight or flight and cringe. The stuff he's bringing to the table about where he sits and what his opinions and stuff are, it's in his DNA too. Just based upon, do you know what I mean? Like,
you know, I do know. I'm going to think as I speak here. I remember being on the tube in London with my granddad, and we're actually going to the airport, I think. And I heard some people further in a few seats away speaking Hebrew, and I said to him, "We're allowed to do that." And because I grew up with Hebrew being spoken, I'm Jewish, I've got Israeli family. I grew up with Hebrew being spoken quietly, and my mum still calls Israel over there, right?
Wow.
So Generation X, privilege of being Generation X, didn't grow up with that,
Right.
I'm also going to repeat what someone else said, a Jewish girl said the other day, which is like, if for all of it, we're still not judged on what we look like.
Yeah.
So I'll go there, but this isn't this conversation is this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, on the subject of ignorance and indifference, in England last actually it was going on all last year because my brother was telling me about it. He was in fact for a couple of years he was telling me about the anti-Semitism. I'm like, England? Anti-Semitism? What is it? 1850? What?
Right.
And but no, it was a thing. And actually, because I think I was even there when this happened. No, I'd come. I call this home now.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much I like England.
Over there.
Yes. No, we'd come home, returned home shortly after shortly before the general election, and the Labour Party leader Jeremy Corbyn, he had been accused of anti-Semitism, and literally all he would have needed to do was apologise, but he didn't. He started justifying himself, and
he doubled down on it, basically.
I mean, but
it's so hurtful. It hurts.
It's so hurtful, but baffling as well. Like,
yeah.
Like, but there's my what, I don't know what you call it now. Permanent resident privilege at that point. Like, I don't know that that's going on in England, and that opened my eyes to, my God, what else am I not seeing here? What else am I not seeing here? I'm gonna just mention a few things. Again, the greatest value of this, I feel, is even more than the book, is just getting to hear you speak.
Yeah, hanging out.
Well, yeah, as well. The where Michelle Alexander is picking up in this book, or focusing, is on from where it really mushroomed in the Reagan era and the war on drugs, and that being used to marginalize African Americans, and the word and the implied meaning of the word criminal and felon, and so the malleability of the laws being used to, that incarceration was a gateway for marginalization to happen. Sorry, I didn't get much sleep last night. I'm finding my words. There's like so much I could say about that, and I'm sort of just debating the relevance of talking about this with you right now.
Well, this is something, when it comes to this Jim Crow and the topics that Michelle was and is trying to shine light on, for someone like me, like I told my husband last night, I've never known anybody in prison. I've never known anybody in jail.
Right.
My husband's never been arrested. My dad's never been arrested. I have 7 male cousins, as far as I know. None of them have ever been arrested. They've definitely never been in jail or prison. So even when we talk about these things, they don't even affect, I can kind of get it, because, you know, in the way in which white people have to listen to this stuff and it doesn't affect them, it doesn't affect me on that level, you know, of whatever happens through the prison system and all that. Now it does on the other side, because I know the experiences that my husband has with the cops come out of Jim Crow, come out of post-slavery. That's the cancer, and that's the attitude around policing that comes from that, with the way, when I was reading up on the book, how they talked about how, you know, slaves would, once they were free, and then they get arrested and get put into the system, which, like today, they get put into the system, and then they were returned back to their masters. And although they were free, they had to work for their masters, and because there was no value and they were no longer owned by their masters, many times their lives had no value. Black lives did not matter, and they were killed. You know, they were worked to death. They were just worked to death.
Yes.
So we all have so much to learn about this stuff together. But let me get back to that thought with the policing, and why police operate the way they do, but also why the community as a whole many times will say, well, blue lives matter too. Yeah. And, you know, and then, or go into this big defense about, well, all cops aren't bad, or most cops are good. You know, more of that kind of stuff. It's because so many of us do not realize our history, and why you feel compelled to even say things like that, when again, we're trying to deal with the bad ones. You know, we're trying to deal with an issue that is truly going on. You know, I watched a video last night of a young girl. It was the opposite. You know how I did that video about, hey folks, teach your children.
Yeah.
And if you teach them about that racism is bad, then other people can't teach them it's good. So I was in this mode. I woke up this morning thinking I thought I had all the answers, but I went to bed last night after watching a video of it, and this is a white couple with a white teenage daughter, or she looks preteen, like she's 13 or 14. And it was it was a TikTok video that she recorded having a conversation with her parents about race, about Black people. And it was the child. I couldn't see the parents. You couldn't see, they're probably my generation X. She's millennial or whatever the generation is after that. And she's trying to explain to them how they're wrong. And the things, it was all stereotypical, like my client's father, just spouting all this stuff. And look at the statistics. And she was like, statistics can be skewed, Mom and Dad. They're not right. So Mom does this. Mom obviously is looking something up. She does the statistic and says, in 2019, 537 white people were killed by cops. Only 200 and something were killed, you know, that were Black. But then the child says, but Mom, we make up, and it was something like 87% of the population. They make up 13%. If you look at the numbers, and the girl was like doing the calculations, like she was able to say, we should have like X number of people who've been killed, and they should have like 2. like she was able to like, come back with really, really solid, responses to the, I'm going to call it ignorance in the sense that they just don't know. Sometimes we use that word, it can be, like you're trying to be insulting with it, but I'm truly using the word ignorant in the sense of what it really, they just
what is when someone just has to be right? What's that?
Oh, in this case, honestly, right off the cuff, what comes to me in this particular case with this particular topic, white privilege.
Okay.
But in other situations, it would be another word. I don't know what. But in this case, it was just like they were on their high horse and they need to figure it out. They need to fix that. It has nothing to do with us. Nothing. And so they were in that same mindset again of my client's father, that just don't want to take any responsibility. Don't want to give any at all. I think it really is. It's a fear, and it's what that person whose name we don't invoke, really is able to tap into with our society. It is that fear. And what I think happens, like with anything that ebbs and flows, right now we're in high fear. Like with the people who are posting about Antifa and, extreme left, extreme right. And then I have this Facebook friend, she's white, she's like in her 50s, where she's always saying, Black people, I love you. I love you so much. Oh, I'm so for you. But then everything she posts is with that other sentiment of all that other stuff, where I'm going, girl, that is just it's just invoking fear in your community, and in you, because, like she posted something and it was like, this could happen in my neighborhood. Oh my God. And it was, about, I don't want to waste time with that, but it was just people bearing arms, taking arms up in their neighborhood because they thought the big bad monster was coming to attack their neighborhood in Vegas.
Right.
In the last couple days. And I'm like, what is going on? So they're really good at packaging up that fear with a big red bow and keeping people afraid. And so going back to what you said about when Obama was president and what we have in this country, and I think it's just going to continue to be this way. It's a tug of war back and forth, a Bush and Obama, the current president, and then whatever happens next. It's just this constant tug and pull back and forth, because when they're doing it right, they're able to really tap into fear of the unknown. And as long as they can keep these otherisms going and keep people in fear that someone's going to take something from them, not understanding that there's enough for anyone, for all of us. And if we really want to go there, and I don't want to get too far off topic with the book, but we don't want to talk about that 1% and how they have most of it anyway. Mm-hmm. We're all down here just with the crumbs anyway. Mm-hmm. So it's like you're focusing your attention in the wrong direction if your fear and your concern is having things taken away from you. It's not us. Even if you throw us a little bit more, it's not us you need to be concerned about. And you need to be focused on trying to change unto with which the system is not working for everyone. Yeah. That's not where the issue is. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. Really towards the end of the book, when she's talking about looking ahead, and she owns she doesn't have the answers. No one's got all the answers. Not expecting anyone to have all the answers. She makes a very profound point that they could have called it the war on poverty, and because that's truly what was going on. They could have done that. And something that lit something up in my head, like, I don't know what to do with that yet. But
that's interesting. Yeah.
Also, just thinking about the future. I know we haven't sort of touched on the book that much, but I think it's important to have this conversation. but to white people that are watching, you know, I know there's all this stuff about don't just share memes and so on, but it's like, that's all you got, do it.
Yeah.
Because things change, things pass very quickly these days. And I have a concern. It's going to sound like an odd thing. I'm concerned that what if there's like a hurricane or an earthquake tomorrow? It's like, that's going to be the news, and this isn't going to have gone away.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel there's an opportunity. There's a window now to affect a change. And for me, it's on the individual. I'm not saying to anyone to do anything. You know, people are saying this hate's got to stop. It's like, who are you saying that to?
Exactly.
Stop your own hate. Or say things like, the love's got to start and here's what I'm doing. Or something.
Uh-huh. I'll give you this, that in the conversations I've had with a girlfriend, it's been many, not many, but quite a few. When I awakened 2 days ago to the light bulb going off, and she was like, oh my gosh, it's not enough for me to be anti-racist. I mean, it's not enough for me to be non-racist. I need to be anti-racist. And those terms, you know, I've used them like 27 times since she sent me that text, because it's not in my vocabulary. It wasn't. And I was just like, that concept, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, that's it. But, and you know, again, the bowing of the head and like feeling bad, like I have so much work to do. And that's when you saw me talking about what I shared with the world, because what I instantly was able to say back was, honey, I only know about the Black experience. I have work to do too. I don't know about any of the other cultures either and what they're going through. They have pain and struggles and stripes and stuff that goes on. I have no idea what it is that they would like someone to ask them about or that they need help with. So I just was like, look, we all have work to do. It's not just black and white, you know, or white for blacks. Yeah. It's like, we all have work to do to find more compassion. You know, when I see something happening to somebody else in another racial group, you know, another community, I'm just like, I imagine I'm just like white folks when stuff happens to us, another cop killing or whatever, and they go, oh, wow, that's horrible. That's unfortunate. I wonder what they're going to do about that. What time is it? I got to get to work.
Yeah.
I do the same. I'm no different. You know, if someone says something derogatory or, you know, something's going on, we know just the different things that go on that we catch on the news. And oh, wow, that is horrible. I cannot believe they said that. I cannot believe that's going, okay, I need to go get my dry cleaning. You know, we all do it. We don't necessarily mean any harm with it. I think we all just need to be more active, you know, step out of ourselves.
I think so too. Even in early March, which feels like centuries ago now, and someone used an expression I hadn't heard for a while: compassion fatigue. You heard of that?
Oh,
you know,
yes.
And it's not about being a bad person or uncaring. It's just about being overloaded. And
yeah.
But let me just follow that up with, no, things have to change now, and Black Lives Matter. I'm sorry, hashtag, I'm millennial, too old. No, Black Lives Matter. If we honor that, and it's a step by step, because I don't know what to do next after this, but something will come. If we can honor this, then Iranian lives will matter. Latino lives matter, and I'm fluffing my words. I'm feeling a little ignorant right now, but trans lives matter, immigrant lives matter. People waiting at the borders, they haven't gone away. They're still there. And
I know.
And I'm not pretending like it's mine or anyone's to do everything. It's not. God puts us where we are to do what we're supposed to be doing, gives us what we need. And there's a beautiful tapestry with that. Mm-hmm. And I'm good with that. I'm good with that, with the arms and legs and mouthpieces of God. I'm good with that. I'm good with that. I am hoping, intending that each of us finds what that is through this.
Just if we all just do a little bit, we don't take on the whole world.
Right.
Just do our tiny, tiny little pieces. What I did was I made up my mind, and it's my topic of my video today. It's going to be about microaggressions and addressing them. When
Yes.
things happen to us, don't just go, oh, well, there was a situation with my husband. I'll make it real quick, where he went and got mulch, and he was asked to rip his receipt in half. And he was like, what was that? Because the people in front of him didn't, and the people behind him didn't. And he was very hurt by it. He didn't mention it to me for a couple of days. Yeah. Sat on it for a couple of days. I called the store yesterday, and I called the actual store first. Yeah. And spoke to someone, and she was like, what are you talking about? We don't do that. I was like, well, that's what I was calling. I wanted to see if it was store policy or what the deal was. And I was like, and in that whole story of the people in front of my husband, and then he kind of slowed down to see what happened to the people behind him. Not only were they not asked for their receipt, of course they weren't asked to rip it in half, because they didn't have to show a receipt. They just hopped out and said, yeah, I need 3 bags of whatever mulch, and they drove away. And so I called the store first, and then I called the corporate office. And then I had to explain the story to the person answering the phone, the gatekeeper of how can we help you. She was like, one moment, please. I'm going to get someone for you to talk to. She comes back and says, I have one of the owners on the phone. And I was able to relay the whole thing to the owner. Not mad, no attitude or anything about it, nothing like that. What I said to her was, before someone, I'm a business owner, and I know what it's like to not know what's going on out there. And I told her, I said, before someone gives you a really bad review on Yelp, which I could have done without calling your store, and I'm happy to be talking to her because I wasn't expecting to talk to the owner of the business. I was like, I just wanted to let you know what's going on so you can fix it. I was like, so if everyone's receipt's getting ripped because you don't want them to roll back around again and get more, totally understand it. But if it's not the policy for everyone, along with having to show your receipt, then it should not be done for anyone. And, and I talk, again, this is me doing my little part to not just blow these things off and not even have this owner know this is what's going on at your business. Now, she may totally support it and be like, yeah, that's what I want to happen. Then you're going to get a bad review on Yelp next time by somebody else. But I wanted to give her an opportunity to know what's going on and to correct it. And so where I sit, and for other Black people, if we start doing our part with that, instead of just going, that's just the way the world is, I knew that was going to happen, or, just the stuff that we shove down because we're cringing, we can also do our part too to help change this, because a lot of times people don't even realize. That's a really obvious one, but there's other things sometimes where people don't even realize what they're doing or what they're saying. And again, though, I'm going to keep talking to Black people about calm down when you're doing it. You don't, what I mean? I know you're angry sometimes about things or feeling affronted, but you got to bring it down a couple notches if you want people to hear you. If I'm yelling and spitting in your face, you may want to understand what I'm saying to you and what's going on. But if you're doing all that, if I'm doing all that too, you're just going to be backing up so much. You're just trying to get away from me. And I'm not going to get anything solved because I'm so upset and so angry. So we need to bring it down. And that's why my initiative is to welcome anyone to message me. Just had a situation in a group today with estheticians where the owner of a company wanted to highlight Black businesses. What happens? 3 posts in. Well, when are we going to have a white people day? And then somebody else respond. And then of course I don't have to look. I can assume it's a Black person saying every day is white people day. And I'm like, oh my God. So I jumped in and I did a little thing. I posted, I'll send it to you. It's from, I can't think of who it's from, but it's a quick little video that was able to address exactly what was happening in that moment. And I very nicely just put it, what you just did is a textbook example of what we are up against all the time. And I went on to explain what she had done and how she had made the Black girls in the group feel to an extent by doing that, because they went off, on Facebook, how they went down to another post and started commenting about that girl up there that had made that comment. And there were like 2 hearts on it up there. So it was kind of like people were taking sides. And I'm like, no. we're not going to do this in here. We're not going to do this. And so I just went in like the big girl and explained what was going on and how this was textbook. And if you're open and if you want to learn, because she may not want to, I don't know who this is. That just may be how you feel. She may be like my client's father and not want to budge and move no matter what age she is. But I was like, if you're willing to learn, if you want to know why this has upset so many people, here's the tool. And I also said, and I'm open. And if you want to go to my personal profile and look at some videos, I have stuff over there too. So I'm giving all these different things. I'm going to hand you something. I'm going to tell you can go look on my Facebook, and my messenger is open. You can talk to me. Now, every Black person is not open to that. They're in the mode of, you need to figure it out. But again, Joshua, like I explained, if I want to know something about being Jewish or being Mexican or Japanese or anything else, I don't really want to Google it. I want to come to you. Right. I want to go to my friend Madi, who's Mexican. You know, I want to go to Misan, my Japanese client. Like, I want to go to them and be like, yo, point me in the right direction of where I should start. You know, I don't think anyone would be they should not be offended. I won't say I don't think anyone will, because some people may, but that's where I'm going to start. Yeah. So that I can make sure I'm tapping into the right information, or even to have you guys to tell me what it feels like to be you. I don't see any problem with that.
I appreciate you saying that, because I didn't feel like I could.
Yes.
But I, you know, and you know, I've seen some people on Facebook saying, I'm tired of my white friends contacting.
I don't understand it. I don't understand it, but we're in a different, I'm just in a different headspace.
And you know, going back to what you're saying about, you know, I'm going to speak to white people right now and say, if African American is angry, or attitude, to use that word, it's because there's trauma there. And if there's trauma there, we need to understand that. Yeah. And I'm not saying get on the cross about it, but just contemplate, think.
Yeah. Well, you know, I am a Black woman, and you know that stereotype of the angry Black woman, which so many of us try to make sure that we're not seen that way. And you know, like even when, you know, where a Black woman in a boardroom can be expressing herself, and because we're very, you know, our hands, and we're just very stern, and it will be seen as aggressive. But then if a white woman presents the same stuff, but it's going to, of course, first you start with the white skin, and then however her mannerisms are, it's seen as assertive. What has dawned on me in the past week with this angry Black woman stuff is back to that cringing and that fight or flight mode. If you're in fight or flight mode all the time, you're just on edge. And the way you're always coming off is that you're angry, even when you're not necessarily angry. It's more like you're exasperated at life. Like even the situation, like she's working the customer service desk at Walmart, and it's like, well, what do you need? What's going on? You know? And she's not mad. Nothing has happened to her that day, but she's just exasperated at life in general. And she's coming off like the angry Black woman. And I could not have explained that to you prior to the last 10 days of my life. I mean, you know, it is what it is.
Well, my head.
I mean, you know. So, okay, what else do we need? We didn't really get into the book.
You know, I think what needed to happen happened.
Okay.
And because it's the, if I just go there for a moment, I know you've got to go in a second, so I'm just honoring your time. If disenfranchisement, when someone enters the judicial system, is incarcerated, comes out, and they don't have access to food stamps, they can't get a job, they can't drive, they can't vote, they can't be on they can't serve as a juror, and you know, she raises the point: does someone know when they go for a guilty plea because they think that's the lesser of the evils, that's the easier of the options? So they know they are making a choice that is going to affect the rest of their life. And of course,
and I didn't know that. I didn't know that till this very moment. I knew you couldn't vote, but I knew you could be on a jury, but I didn't know all that other stuff you just told me.
I'm sure I probably generalized a little bit much. thinking, what I've
Then
missed.
how are they ever supposed to come? How are they ever supposed to get integrated back into society?
That's the point. That's the point. That's the point. And it keeps, and then there is the stigma and the shame. And look, for the love of God, I only know this because I've been reading a book for the last week. I didn't know that until this month, this year. I didn't know that. And it is probably caused similar in other countries, but we're talking about this country, we're talking about African Americans, talking about men, how that then affects the families and the women at home with the children. And no, I'm not putting a Superman cape on here, but I want to know this. I want to know this. And I even saw on Facebook News, so it must be true. I think in Los Angeles, they were taking $150 million out of funding for police and putting it into minority.
I saw that.
I'm like, oh.
I did the same thing. I was like, is this real?
Is this real?
Is that true?
and
so fast.
And
I was like,
well,
wow.
I get that there's reaction. I get that people are being reactive, but I mean, look, I think quoting you here, it's 400 years too late. And what it makes it, and I was going into today, I was thinking about, okay, book, no book, whatever. What are the kind of take homes from this? What can one pay for? What can I pay forwards, as it were? And it makes me think about how I would vote, not blue or red, but how I would vote on the local level, what I would support, what I would bring activism to, what I would speak up about, what I would tell my children.
Yeah.
And that's a whole conversation for another day. But what am I gonna? Yeah, I mean, that's something I'm thinking a lot about at the moment, and so there are silver linings. I mean, I'm remembering also this book was written in 2010, and the global commerce has changed a lot in the last couple of years. Whereas it totally disenfranchised almost everyone about 30-ish years ago, when with the globalization and deindustrialization, now it's possible to get to work in lots of different ways through social media and through the internet and so on. And things have opened up. Things have opened up. That's only in the last couple of years, really, that I've seen that. But no, Nicole, I'm so grateful for your time today and to broaden this conversation, to get some actual, because if it's just been me, I would have just been mumbling and fumbling and in my head, and I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful to you.
Well, thank you for having me. And for anyone who is like, I don't have time to read a book, I found it on YouTube. And it's out there, it's out there by chapter.
Yeah.
And that's how I'm going to get through it, like driving back and forth to work.
Yeah.
So just for people who, and if you don't want to actually buy it and actually listen to it, it's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube, yeah.
Yeah.
Have a wonderful day, Nicole. Bless your heart. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you, babe.